Okay, Assalamu alaikum and good morning to you all. On behalf of the North-South University Department of Architecture and the Institute of Architects Bangladesh, we welcome you to this webinar. It's an online presentation of selected projects of GENSLER. We all are aware of GENSLER, more or less, I hope. I will introduce myself. I am your host, Mujtaba Hassan, Associate Professor, Department of Architecture, North-South University, and I have with me a renowned architect from the IAB, Ishtiaq Zahid Titash, who will also be co-hosting with me on this event. Today, we have the privilege and the honor to be the host of this presentation with two distinguished leaders from the top architectural firm, globally known, and it's GENSLER. I have already told you. The Architectural Records roster of the top 300 firms has ranked GENSLER as the #1 architecture practice in the USA for the 9th consecutive year. We also have with us our esteemed co-host from IAB, architect Ishtiaq Zahid Titash. Titash Bhai is the Vice President of the Institute of Bangladesh. He is the Honorary Fellow of the American Institute of Architects, co-founder of Vitti, an architecture and urban design practice in Bangladesh. In the last 3 decades, the practice has won national and international recognition for various projects. His interests include designing sustainability through participatory process and designing public spaces. He believes that sustainability should be the core of all development work, and architecture should focus more on research and innovation. For the past 4 years, he has been the co-director of UIA SDG Commission and co-chair of PCG Professionals World Urban Campaign, WUC, an initiative of UN Habitat. A few days back, he has been elected as the Vice President, International Union of Architects, UIA, from Region 4. He's now a board member of UIA. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate Titash Bhai. So before we start our presentation, I would request Titash Bhai to kindly give us the welcoming speech for our speakers. Titash Bhai, the mic is over to you.
Thank you, Mustafa. I welcome you all, distinguished architects from Bangladesh and abroad, and our two esteemed guests, Hassan and Scott. I welcome you all. Scott is from, is evening there. You are from San Francisco, and Hassan is from Shanghai. Good day and good evening, and good morning to all my Bangladeshi viewers and people across the globe. It's an extreme honor for the architects of Bangladesh to listen to you, and I welcome you to Bangladesh. Is during this pandemic situation is an opportunity. We take it as an opportunity. I know there are a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges we are facing, but we take it as a pride and opportunity that we can get you people online at least, and it's an there will be a great audience today, I understand. Let me tell you about Institute of Architects. We have 4,500 members. This is the apex body of all architects of Bangladesh. And since our independence, we are going to celebrate a 50th anniversary of Institute of Architects Bangladesh. And we have been globally very active. We had been into our regional leader, the Arcasia. We lead Arcasia. We also lead CAA. Now we are leading International Union of Architects, as well as next year we'll take charge of Arcasia. The president will be from Bangladesh. And I congratulate all our international winner architects. They are contributing to our practice. And also we have national winners, a big group of young architects. They are contributing to this profession. And also we have now more than 25 School of Architecture. More than 40 years, we had only one school, that is Bangladesh University of Engineering and Bangladesh University of Engineering, BUET and Technology, and that was the only school. And now we have more school, more private school as well, and also government. So it's a very vibrant place, and the place is Bangladesh, the Delta, and we have a different typology of architecture. Someday when you see our Bangladeshi presentation, they will understand that we are evolving in a new typology that is being recognized by the globe. And recently we won 3 Aga Khan Award, and also another one by Kashif Mahbub at RIBA Emerging Architects Award. Sorry, it's not emerging, RIBA recognition. So this is a great pleasure and showcase for you to showcase your work in Bangladesh. And I think our audience will listen to you, as I see that your practice is spread over all over the American as well as Latin America, Europe, Middle East, China, as well as Asia Pacific. My question to you, I'm definitely will through your presentation will come up. So how do you deal with the culture and diversity in these regions? The culture and heritage is one of the most talked about thing in the world now, while we have these global practices. And in Bangladesh, we are trying to adapt our own culture and identity into architecture. To me, I believe as an SDG Commission co-chair that this should be the guiding factor, and sustainability should be not only for research, it should be in the mainstream, so that in the school we teach sustainability from the beginning. It should not be an thing for only for masters or post-graduation or research thing. It should be embedded into people's life. And the climate change, I see that a very good thing that you have included climate action through designing in your design process. That's a very good initiative. And also you think about the cities and urban life, the livelihoodness of the people, not only the building, the space in between the building is also important. And that's the message to the world should be given, that you don't, as an architect, it's not only your responsibility to design the building, but the space in between the city as a whole. Actually, the more design we do, the more building we build, the more you touch the built and involve into the built environment and touch the ground, the more damage we do to the Mother Earth. But that should be compensated by doing justice to the material we use, the way we work. So these are very important. So I'm sure we'll hear the story from you today. I welcome you to Bangladesh and give your speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Titesh Bhai, for your welcome speech. We have with us architect Scott Dunlap. Let me introduce you to our speakers today. Scott Dunlap is the managing principal for GENSLER's Northwest region. Scott oversees the management of 6 offices located in San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, British Columbia. Scott also also co-leads the firm's global operations team, managing the firm's 1.5 billion practice and more than 5,500 professionals, with an operating budget of more than 80 million. During his 35 years of career at GENSLER, Scott has provided leadership on a wide range of architectural and interior projects for clients that span multiple industries. Recently, he has directed project teams for major terminal renovation at San Francisco International Airport, workplaces for IBM, and Facebook's world headquarters in Menlo Park, California. Scott has a passion for development of next generation talent and is active in GENSLER University. The firm's this is the firm's leadership development platform. Scott is a graduate from of California Polytechnic State University and is a registered architect in California. Scott would be leading the presentation, and we also have with us architect Hassan A. Said. He is also the design director and principal at GENSLER. Hassan brings design leadership to a wide range of architectural and research-driven projects. He believes that design should combine aesthetics and elegance driven from performance and human emotional connection, inspiring life, work, and innovation. As a design director in GENSLER Shanghai office, and Shanghai, Hassan is from Shanghai, he's speaking to us from Shanghai, and Scott is presenting from San Francisco. Hassan promotes a culture of design exploration and the open exchange of new ideas, and is responsible for advancing each project's design approach. To his leadership role, he brings more than 20 years of experience in concept design and project development. Hassan has assembled a portfolio that includes the design and planning of large-scale offices. One of them, I believe, he will be presenting today, and high-rise towers, mixed-use developments, hospitality facilities, and retail projects. A Green Star accredited professional, Hassan studied sustainability design at RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia. He earned a Master of Architecture, MArch, from METU, and a Master's in Research at the University of Florence. So without further ado, I would request Scott and Hassan to please start your presentation.
Great. Thank you. First, thank you for that warm welcome, Ishtaik. And I look forward at the end of the presentation to answering your important question about culture and the connectivity to the communities in which we practice. It's a great question. Mushtaba, thank you for those kind introductions. It's wonderful to see you again. Hassan and I really appreciate the opportunity to partner with you, with the North-South University Department of Architecture and the Institute of Architects, Bangladesh, on this presentation today. And a special thanks to the IAB for hosting and streaming this presentation on the IAB Facebook page. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to those of you that have joined us. We're so excited to share our story with you today. And again, we look forward to an open dialogue towards the end of our hour together. Before we begin the presentation, I'll share a little bit about GENSLER as a firm, and I'll also invite you to our website, gensler.com, where you'll find a lot more information about our practice, where we practice, and some of the projects that we're delivering globally. We are a global design firm with 50 locations around the world. Although we don't have an office yet in Bangladesh, we do have locations in the surrounding region with offices in India, in Singapore, and in China. So we are closing in on you, and who knows, we may make it to your country one day. Although today we're going to talk primarily about tall buildings, that is by no means the only typology in our practice. GENSLER has expertise in a wide range of client industries, including aviation, higher education, sports, retail, hospitality, technology clients like Facebook, like Apple or Amazon. We have a robust residential design practice. We do a lot of work in mixed use and entertainment environments. We have an emerging practice in the health and wellness sector, and we are also building our work in the sciences industry. We're also a multidisciplinary firm. We are a firm of architects, interior designers, graphic designers, design strategists, researchers, design technologists, and a whole range of other professionals who help support our work and deliver for our clients. I think what is important to really understand about GENSLER isn't necessarily our size or our global footprint, but rather our culture and our mission as a firm. In spite of the fact that we are dispersed around the globe as a company, we are still a very highly connected firm. And we think of ourselves really as a multicultural, multi-location family. When I reached out to Hassan recently to join me for today's presentation, he said yes, without hesitation. And that's really the way we operate as a company. We help our colleagues whenever they have a need or whenever they need help as colleagues and as friends. We share talent at GENSLER across our offices. We share clients at GENSLER across all of our offices. And we share equally in the financial success of the firm across all of our offices. It's really that special relationship that we believe sets us apart in the design profession. Finally, in terms of our mission as a firm, we believe that we have the distinct opportunity and responsibility to help make the world a better place through the power of design. We believe that we are uniquely positioned through our work to address the impact of the built environment on climate change, something that we know is critical and very important in your country. We also understand that we're not designing for ourselves or for our own egos, but rather for the people who will inhabit and who will inherit the places and the spaces that we design for people to live, work, and play every day. So with that, let's talk about tall buildings. In fact, let's talk about super tall buildings. And there's no better person to join me for that conversation than Hassan Syed. So hello again, Syed. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and share your screen, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Sean, can we share this screen? First of all, thanks so much, Scott. I think you said it to sum us so well, that how we work in GENSLER and how we are such a connected community. And thank you to the Institute of Architects for having us over. It's a real pleasure to be here. And Mushtaba, thanks for organizing this all, and thanks everyone. So it's a real pleasure. And by any time, any place you want us to bring GENSLER to you, we'll be very happy to look into that. We're more than happy to help. So, okay, so today's conversation is, like Scott said, is that GENSLER is not just about tall buildings, but it is about a lot of other things as well. But this is just one aspect of our practice, and we're very happy to share. So we're not going to jump straight into the design of the tall buildings. What we look at the tall building as a sustainable future for the cities and the communities. It's an evolving vertical urbanism, and we are aspiring, and we are looking and researching at what are the new models that are going to inspire the change that is going to come, or it is already coming. So just very briefly touch upon, I know Scott talked about our firm, but we're always proud to share this with you, that we started in 1965, more than 56 years back. And we started with one office and with 3 people, and Art GENSLER, our founder, recently passed away. He had one big idea, and the great man put us all together where we are all today at the moment. So hats off to Art. And of course, one big idea, that's what it makes all the difference. And just very briefly to tell you, like pretty much what Scott said, we just don't do 600-meter tall towers. We do anything from 60 centimeters to 600 meters. So you can see our range. So if you want to come here for the product design, we can help you. We do all sort of design work, and we are very proud of the fact that for us, it's not just about being the tallest. For us, it's always being about being the best and helping the clients, helping the communities to make a positive impact on where we are to the environment as well. Okay, so when we talk about the tall buildings, like as I said, a project like Shanghai Tower is not just a work of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. On Shanghai Tower, something like 150 professionals have worked on this project. And I want to highlight each of those 150 people. We have a center of excellence for designing tall buildings. This is like one of the practice areas here. So of course, Shanghai is an important hub, London, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, Houston. These are the axes of excellence for the GENSLER tall building practices. And we've got more than 200 professionals who have a vast experience in designing the tall buildings. And that is very important for everyone to know that sometimes we work together collaboratively. We have international teams. So I'm working on a lot of projects recently where I'm working with San Francisco team, and sometimes I work with Chicago, London. So all of our different teams work with a lot of different offices and the different regions, and that's our DNA. We connect with everyone regularly. I know it takes a lot of effort, but I think that is an important DNA of how we work collaboratively together. So it means that the client and the communities get the best talent to work on the right typology of the project. So that is our mission. So we go where our clients go, where the communities and the projects go. So rest assured, if there's an opportunity in Bangladesh, we can assure you we'll be very interested to help go there and make a difference. Okay, so very briefly, before jumping into the design of the tower, it's very important to understand what are the tall buildings trending? What are the trends? What used to be in the 19th century? Sean, can you remove the screen because I cannot see the whole page? Sorry, just a little hiccup. Yeah. So one of the things is that in 19th century, the whole idea was that can we build tall? And as we moved into the 20th century, so you can see a majority of the skyline in the New York was all designed in 1920s and was built in 1930s. And so yes, by the 20th century, we knew we could. And of course, as we kind of move towards the end of the 20th century, we realized, yes, we can build tall. Why not? We have the technology, we have the means, we want to build it, and it's all about prestige. And then we realized that, yes, of course, we want to build it because it's better, but we did not know why, but we just felt it's better. It's all about two important aspects have a direct connection to why we build tall. One is the lifestyle revolution, and one is the urban land premium is increasing everywhere, especially in a lot of mega cities. Land is very expensive. So then that kind of two important aspects tell us, yes, there is a need for building tall. Okay. And then some of the economic drivers include, of course, prestige. It does create a prestige for the city, for the district, and it spurs the growth around it. We can also call it the Burj effect. So if you look at the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, it may not be a very successful project financially, but I think it spurred the growth of the whole district, and all the land value around it went up. So that's what we call it, the prestige. And of course, there's a market demand, less land, more pressure in terms of the population, urbanization. And at the end of the day, the way we see designing the tall building is about creating destination. It's about bringing people together. We don't want to create a big structure which have a negative impact on the city and the surrounding, but it's all about bringing people together, creating a mix of unique experiences and adding value to the space and the sustainability. In terms of the lifestyle revolution, of course, we talked about that multi-downtown megacities are coming into existence more and more in a lot of our developing countries. There's a young workforce. They have a different way of working, and they also are dictating how the tall building would be designed, because they don't want to sit in a formal office space or live somewhere where there is no action. So instead of leaving the building, going somewhere for action, we've got to think about how we design the tall buildings where they have the action, where they are living. And of course, the consumerism is on the rise as well. And I think earlier we touched upon, there was a question to Scott and myself, that how do we make ourselves culturally tuned to where we practice? Yes, we are a global American firm, but at the end of the day, we are present in a lot of different parts of the world. And that is what it's all about, search for authentic experiences. So a tall tower in Chicago will be different than the tall tower in Shanghai, will be different than a tall tower in Singapore. The climate is different, the culture is different, the habits of the people are different. So when we design building, we want to make sure the experiences are authentic and we are true to the city and the place where we are designing the building. And singular use buildings, especially, we've all experienced COVID, and I think we're still experiencing the situation in many parts of the world, and we hope it's going to end very soon. But what it did it's taught us that, look, single-use big spaces are not very attractive to a lot of people. They just don't want to hang in a single big spaces. So we're looking for a variety of experiences, a hybrid mixed use community. Okay, so now we gradually move into how we design the tall buildings. Of course, there are 4 important criteria that we as a firm use when we are designing the tall buildings. Creativity is a very important aspect, expertise, research, and client focus. So I'm going to very briefly touch upon some of those things. When we talk about the creativity, what we are saying is that it's about artistry. It's about creating meaningful spaces. It's about creating unique experiences. It's about aesthetics. So, and it's about the different tools that create aesthetics. So that is very important aspect of any project, or it's about art. And then the other important thing is that you need the right expertise to design tall buildings. In some of my previous slides, I showed you the center of excellence for our firm in 5-6 locations around the globe. We have 200 people with a lot of experience designing tall buildings. So people should know how you design the tall buildings. What are the things that are needed to stabilize the tall building? How important is the structure? How important is fire life safety? How important is the impact on the neighboring communities? How important it is to connect to the city infrastructure? So the expertise and the knowledge of knowing how to realize the tall building is a very important criteria for being part of the tall building practice. And of course, the research. We in GENSLER, we have a lot of strong focus on research. We are doing a lot of research in a lot of typologies, and I think Scott touched upon it earlier on, that how we are a research-focused firm. A certain percentage of our revenue goes into research. So we have different researches going on all the time, and at the moment there is a couple of researchers that have been involved as well for the tall building practice. We're looking at ways to design a digital toolkit for designing the tall building, how we can help young designers to know the basic parameters through the use of technology. So constant evolution in terms of the technology, in terms of the materiality, in terms of high-tech technology, engineering, which is a very important component of designing tall buildings. And of course, it's all about understanding what is the need of the client. It's always a big investment. So you can see a lot of tall buildings we design, not all of them go through. A lot of them during the financial crisis would suffer. They'll be put on hold. They will never be completed. So we have to be very patient. We have to work very closely, understand the amount of investment that is going into this product, and also understand the impact this will have on the city. So all these aspects are very critical, working closely with the client, understanding the real purpose of why we are designing and how we can help leverage as a positive impact on our communities. So some of the important trends in tall building design, I'm just going to briefly talk about, and of course, all these trends are part of how we've designed Shanghai Tower. Just recently, we're also working on another tall tower in Suzhou, which is 500-meter tall. And all the research that we do internally within our organization, it informs us that how we should be approaching the design of the tall buildings. And we have a different way of designing buildings. A lot of human-centric approach is part of the way we design our building, and that is what sets us apart from our competitors. And so one of the important trends is about vertical urbanism and creating mixed-use community. This is the diagram of the Shanghai Tower. So Shanghai Tower is seen as a vertical community. So you can see it's like a city. If a building is going to house 30,000 people, so you can imagine it's like a small town. You can go to some of the Western Europe and the US and Canada and Australia, and you'll see there's a small town of 30,000 people. And Shanghai Tower will house 30,000 people. So just imagine, this is a small town, and it needs to have that vitality of the small town. It needs to have entertainment. It needs to have the amenities. It needs for people to, spaces for people to work, to live, to get entertained. So we have to see these buildings as a vertical urban communities. So this is what it's about. It has to be 24-hour mixed-use destination. And this is a diagram which illustrates how we thought of designing tall buildings, and especially the Shanghai Tower. These are areas where people go and explore, which is the observation level. There is an art. So TMD, which is a tune mass damper, which is an important aspect of the tall building, which keeps the tall building at the top stable against the strong wind and the typhoons. I mean, just last week we had a typhoon in Shanghai, and you could see this whole TMD moving and stabilizing the structure to stop it from flipping over. But we use this as a piece of art, as a space, as a gallery. And of course, the places where you're going to work, there are sky lobbies, which are the breakout spaces for the offices and the zones. And of course, there are some retails, there are some lobbies, there are some underground connections. So you can see it's a cohesive 24-hour mixed-use destination. And the other important thing is about creating destination. And you look at the picture, all these pictures are important, iconic masterpieces in the different part of the world. You've got Empire State Building, you've got Chrysler Building, you've got Shanghai Tower, and you see the relationship of the Shanghai Tower can only be understood when you look at it in the context of the Jinmao Tower, and you look in the context of the World Financial Center. And I'm going to talk a little bit more later on that how we see the relationship between these three tall buildings and how it's important as the government looked at it some 25, 30 years back as a vision of building the cluster of three super tall buildings, and Shanghai Tower is the culmination and the realization of that dream that the city of the Shanghai had. And of course, creating new districts, helping to create new districts and bring vibrancy into the communities. The other important trend is that how we can connect to the extended community. And I think one way is that how the sky bridges connect to the other plots, how the underground network of metro and the train and the transit connects wider city to the building, and how the natural spaces within the city relate to this green spaces outside. So how do we kind of reach out to the extended community? And one of the important thing is that it's just a general rule. I mean, so it's very important that when we're designing building, we say it's enhancing the appeal of the observation deck. And we say it's a 10% rule of thumb that can pay for the bottom 90%. I mean, it may not be true in a real sense, but what we are trying to say, the impact of the 10% of the observation is huge in terms of bringing people to the building, making sure that people know and come and be attractive and to this place, and that's a real attractor. And in Shanghai Tower, that has been the case. And so it's about bringing value to the top of the tower. It's about having the right entertaining experience and bringing people. And this is the another thing that I talked about, you know, leveraging the TMD as a stream of revenue. So what we've done in the Shanghai Tower is that this TMD shape is designed by an artist, a local artist, and it's called the Shanghai Eye. So when you say eye, it's not the eye that we see, it's the eye of the mind. So this becomes a place for exhibition. This becomes a place where people go and explore. It's an artwork, and you won't say that it's a TMD, but yes, it's doing the job of a TMD, keeping the building honest and straight during the typhoon and high winds, and creating a space for a meaningful experience. And
Hassan, you might explain just a little bit more about what they're looking at there, because I think it's really interesting that the TMD is actually below the piece of art. Yes. That's where the mass is. Yes. And the cables, you know, are really what are supporting that and creating that structural effect.
Yes. Right? So I think once we'll go to the presentation, we can touch a little bit more on that. But yes, Scott, you're so right. So it's like a 1,000-ton structure, and what it does, it moves against the movement of the sway in the building, and you have the art piece sitting on the top of that, and as it oscillates to keep the building straight, you see this beautiful artist sculptures sitting there for people to walk around the gallery and see the functioning of the real engineering marvel, which is the TMD, and the combining art and experience together. And the important, other important trend is that, and this is one of the image of one of the tower in Pittsburgh, PNC Tower, and we say this is also one of the most sustainable tower. So a lot of places we want to see our buildings to be sustainable. We want to have opportunities where people interact with nature. So we wanted to have a strong strategy for passive natural ventilation strategies for the design of our tower. And this is again another view of the Shanghai Tower, and you see the sky lobbies. And this is the place which we call the outdoor gardens, backyard spaces for a lot of people living in Shanghai. They love their backyards, they love their neighborhood green spaces. And this is the community space, green space for every zone. And this is where you interact with people and you interact with the nature. So as for the research we've done, and as per what we noticed, that 10% of the employee absences can be attributed to the architecture, which has no connection to the nature. So it's very important to design sustainable building, but it's very important for people to have a close interaction with the nature as we design the buildings, within as well as outside the buildings. And one of the important aspects of designing the tall building is to understand that safety is very critical. So evacuation is very, very critical. So fire life safety design makes or breaks the project. So if the fire life safety of the project cannot be approved by the authorities, the project is not going to move forward. So it's very critical that our teams work closely with the local authorities, have a great understanding of the local code, bring the international knowledge to really create a strategy that how we're going to evacuate the building if there is a fire on the 100th floor. So very quickly. So two ways to kind of have the egress. One is the vertical egress, like you have a stairs, you've got fire elevators, you've got some exterior escape devices. It depends on how tall the building is that. And then of course, at the horizontal egress components would include some refuge floors, some sky bridges. And the other important critical thing about the tall building design is about we cut the rope, the impact of the advancement in the future proofing of the tall buildings. And I think vertical transportation is the key. So vertical transportation is key because we see the tall buildings like Shanghai Tower as a vertical city. It's like the city, it's got thousands of people occupying. And the city needs connectivity. So you can't go from one place to another if you don't have roads, if you don't have networks, if you don't have rail, cars. So you need a strong network of connectivity. And the vertical transportation, the lifts, they are doing the job of this. So it's almost like, I just want to read the statement. It has been said that the use of one elevator plus shaft is like using an entire railway line to connect two cities with a single train. So just imagine how important this is. And again, if you've got a good vertical transportation system, you've got a less waiting times, you've got an efficient system, fast system, 10 to 20% increase in the rentable area for a typical super tall buildings if you design them with ropeless elevators. So it means it's the most efficient system. And of course, up to 50% higher transportation capacity to reduce the peak power demand by as much as 60% when compared to a more conventional elevator system. So vertical transportation system is key to designing tall buildings. And that's why the core of the super tall tower is very important. It's not just a structure, but it's from where you connect to the rest of the building. And of course, we are looking at a lot of potential ways to use transportation system. There may be opportunities to engage the buildings both horizontally and vertically. So it's all about connectivity, just like you've got roads, rail, and links. And so now we come to the Shanghai Tower. So a lot of these trends that we talked about earlier is all a precursor of what Shanghai Tower is all about. They're all part of how we've designed the Shanghai Tower. And they all kind of looked at the scenario in terms in reference to the Shanghai Tower. There are a few more things we want to talk about Shanghai Tower. So, of course, this is the image, as-built image of the Shanghai Tower, overlooking the Hongpu Bridge and the Shanghai on the other side. So, just a very quick thing in terms of the urban context. So you see, Shanghai Tower is the most forward-looking tower among the top 3 towers. So when you look at the cluster of the 3 tower, which is the Jinmao Tower, Shanghai Tower, World Financial Center, this is the tallest cluster of super tall buildings anywhere on the planet. So Shanghai Tower is 632 meters tall. World Financial Center is about 492, close to 500 meters tall, and Jinmao is about 421 meters tall. So the tallest cluster of super tall buildings come here. The shape of the Jinmao Tower is like a pagoda. It's like paying homage to the old architecture of China. And World Financial Center is a straight cut building representing the present state of modern China. And Shanghai Tower, with its boundless, infinite, vertical movement and trajectory, represents the infinite growth for the city of the Shanghai, representing the future of China. And that is how we look all these 3 towers together in a way that how they relate to the past, present, and the future. And so it's very important to look at the Shanghai Tower in the context of the other 2 towers. The other thing I want to highlight is that Shanghai Tower, if you look at the footprint of the tower, it's like there are 2 buildings. You've got a round internal tower, and then you've got a triangular skin. And the reason, and that skin is the one which is evolving and moving as we move to the top. But that has a relationship to the bend of the Hongpu River that you will see. So the shape of the tower relates to the surroundings, and the context of the 3 buildings and how Shanghai Tower story evolves is very critical for the understanding in terms of the urban context. Just to show you, this is what Pudong looked like in 1990, the picture on the far left. And then you look at 2008, and then you look at the bottom picture, which is 2016. So you can see there's been phenomenal growth of this whole area. And Lujiazui is a new business district. And Shanghai Tower, the tallest building there, of course, the 2nd tallest in the world. So just to show you that how this whole thing has spurred the growth beyond anyone could have imagined some 20, 25, 30 years back. And vertical urbanism is very important. So we talk about the authenticity and what Shanghai is all about. The people in the Shanghai, they love the green spaces. They love their backyard. And what we've done is that we've looked at that how we can bring the Shanghainese culture of its backyard garden into the vertical urbanism. So that means that Shanghai Tower takes inspiration from a traditional, smaller scale courtyard neighborhood parks and recast them in a more vertical way. So you see that the tower is embracing this idea, and then you have those vertical gardens and park going all the way right to the top. So embedded strongly into what Shanghai is about. And the other thing we want to talk about is the form and the function. So a lot of people think that, oh, okay, it's an architect's ego. We want a nice twisting form that looks cool. No, that is not the way we design buildings. So everything is informed through the story that we created in terms of what Shanghai is about, how we can bring Shanghai courtyard, backyard, green spaces into the building. And then we look at this building. Super tall building has a serious impact by the strong winds. So of course, you know, we recently had a typhoon. We talked about the TMD, that how it oscillates and keeps the building upright and stable at the top. So the wind is one of the most important consideration when we are designing the structure and the shape of the tall building. So we tested in a lab, like a big lab. You can see that kind of a 12 meters tall tower to look at what is the best angle and the degree in terms of the twist, which is going to minimize the wind impact on the building. So when you reduce the wind impact on the building, it means that the building becomes lighter, the structure becomes lighter. And in that way, we save $58 million in cost, mostly in terms of the material, because of the shape that reduces the wind. And 120-degree, we felt, was the best degree twist that would help us achieve that result. So everything is informed by logic, science. It's not just the ego of designers to create a certain shape. We are not into that. We create meaningful aesthetics and architecture based on the research and based on the engineering. That is the best solution. And of course, just to have a little bit understanding of how the tall building structure works. So of course, you have the main structure. So your core is your main structure. Then you have a super columns. And then the super columns are connected by the outriggers, where you have every mechanical floors and the refuge floors at every zone. They brace it back. So this forms the core structure of the tower. And of course, then you have the outer skin. But in the case of the Shanghai Tower, we have those zones extended out, and that's how we form the vertical lobbies and atriums around the tower as the green spaces. And so this is the general programming of the tower. Of course, you've got a TMD and the exit space at the top. You've got observation spaces. Just recently, they've opened the Hotel J, which is one of the top boutique hotel in China. They just recently opened. So there's a hotel, there's another hotel, and there are offices, and there's a retail, conference hall, meeting places, and a whole heap of connections to the underground metro system. So that's how we see this as a vertical city. And of course, just to show you a little bit about the programming and how the roof of the podium also gives you an opportunity as a breakout space to go out, and you have a garden space at the top of the podium too. And the concept of the sky garden. So it has two important things. One is the outer skin, and one is the inner skin, which is a circular. And these two wall systems are created as a one-of-a-kind sky garden. So there are 21 sky gardens into the building, and all of these atrias are your backyard green spaces, are your neighborhood parks. So, and it's also a very sustainable thing to do. So think about if you're at 500 meters, if you're on zone 10, I don't need to go down 500 meters, take the elevator all the time to grab a cup of coffee. That's not very sustainable. How about every zone has its own private garden? Every zone, you have the amenity. So I don't have to go all the way down to 500 meters. Somebody can just go down to the lobby, like one zone. Every zone has its own amenity, and that's your garden. That is your public space. That is your neighborhood park within the building. And you can see these atrias are rotating around the building, and they go the full height of the zone. It's about 50 meters. Yeah. And of course, commercial office spaces, hotels, underground connectivity, and the observation level. So this is just a diagram to show you what Scott talked about. This is 1,000 metric ton tuned mass damper near the top of the tower, which improves the occupant comfort. So especially in a lot of towers, like especially tall tower, mega tower, for example, in the Shanghai Tower, below the observation, we have J Hotel. So it's not just there to keep the building out from sway. Yes, it is. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the people are comfortable at the top level, because otherwise you will feel a much more stronger movement. So that is one of the important things. And you can see the topping of the tower is for the observation level for the tourists. Then you have amenities, you've got restaurants, you've got cafes, you've got gift shop, and then there's an open air observation deck. You can just walk around, and on a platform above, people can view this, like we talked about earlier, 1,000 metric ton assembly of a steel plate suspended by the thick cables. So you can see the thick cables which are suspending 1,000 metric ton of this TNT through cables, and then you've got a sculpture on the top of that. So it becomes a focal point of this whole gallery. So this whole thing around it is a gallery, and this TNT, which moves back and forth, is like a counterweight to the strong wind at the top. And just another view. Probably we didn't pick the best day to see out, but the views are amazing when the sun is out. A lot of time we're in the clouds too. And of course the curtain wall, and it was like a complex shape design. So of course we had to work with 20,000 curtain wall panels, including more than 7,000 unique shapes. The facade would have been challenging, but we used the BIM system to work out the geometry and how each and every panel was factory made and installed on the site actually. And of course the construction challenge. So we talked about the structure. So just wanted to show you the reinforced concrete core, and you've got a super composite columns, which you see in the blue color. And then of course you've got steel outrigger trusses. Can you see the dark blue one, which at every refuge floor goes back and braces to the core, and that forms the core structure in most of the super tall buildings. And of course the transparent escape. So it's all, we are very proud to say that Shanghai Tower is one of the most advanced sustainable tall building in the world, and it's to achieve LEED Platinum certification as well as the China Green Building 3-star rating. That is one of the important aspect of this whole tower. This is the most sustainable super tall building that you have anywhere on the planet. And of course we've got strategies of water conservation at the top, and of course the water is used for the green spaces that we have on the landscaping and the roof, so it's used for that purpose. And of course we've got wind turbines at the top as well. So we talked about a lot of sustainable strategies. So you see the picture on the left, and so it incorporates intelligent building controls that lower energy costs by monitoring and adjusting systems such as lighting, heating, cooling, ventilation, and self-generates the power. So the lighting control alone are calculated to save more than 556,000 each year in energy costs. 270 wind turbines at the top of the building provides power for exterior lighting of the building. So you see, while the 2,130 kilowatt of natural gas-fired congregation system provides electricity and heat energy to the low zone area. So you see, a lot of things I'm talking about and a lot of things I've highlighted makes it the most sustainable super tall tower. Another picture. And so it's a real game changer. So this is the most sustainable super tall tower in terms of the technology, in terms of the resilience. And then on the other hand, it's also about authenticity. It is designed for Shanghai. It's based on what Shanghai is all about. It has a great understanding of how people in Shanghai live and work, and how it caters to that, and how it connects this whole city together. And so we see this as a real game changer of how the super tall building should be designed in the future. And I think with that, I open the floor for any conversation and questions. So thank you very much. And so yes, both me and Scott are here. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you want to talk about something. So thank you very much.
We'll turn it back to you, Mujtaba. And Hassan, if you want to stop sharing your screen, that would be great.
So we stop the screen share, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Okay, Hassan, that was a wonderful presentation. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much. We hope that you would keep on going, but our time is limited. So
I know.
I have a lot of questions from the viewers. So I don't know how much time we can give, but I'll start. And as long as you can stay with us, we'll just put the questions before you. I have one question from Syed Abidur Rahman. He's an architect, and his question is, he has got two questions. I'll just read out the first one for you. Do you want me to go with both the questions at the same time, or do you want me to ask you the first question and then after you answer, I ask you the second?
Why don't you ask both of them, and then we'll try to respond to both.
Both me and Scott will respond to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So his first question is, are tall buildings making social and economical discrimination outside and inside their shell? That is question number one. Question number two is, the more we go vertically, the more environmental challenges come in front: wind, oxygen level, G factor, etc. How far can we go vertically considering the environmental sustainability? So these are his two questions.
Scott, you want to go for it?
Well, I think it's an interesting question about, discrimination, in terms of the access to the environment. Hassan, you may know better than I what kind of public access is provided, in the Shanghai Tower for people.
Yes.
Obviously, there's the observation level, but there's a ticket price for that. But why don't you talk about how the general public has access to this, civic amenity?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, I wouldn't see that as a discrimination, because at the end of the day, a lot of private properties, offices, they're not open for public, and the tall buildings should not be considered any different as such. Even if I have a three-story office, it's not for public. It is, but it doesn't mean it's discriminating. That would be one. I would like to take it that way. The other thing in terms of the Shanghai Tower, I would say that it's a city connector, and a lot of amenities on the lower level when you're connecting through the metro system is for everyone. So it means that I can take a metro and I can go through the basement and I can go to the Starbucks, grab my coffee, and then go to my office. And in fact, if I don't work there, I can still grab a coffee from a Starbucks. There's nobody telling me not to do that. And then I can go across the road to other offices. So it's very open. It has two sides. It has a public side and it has a more secure side, because at the end of the day, we need to secure tall buildings as well. They're mega structure, and security is paramount. So this whole tower has an electronic system of monitoring who is doing what and where they're doing in all the critical places, because of the safety of the people. So we do not see that. And then in terms of the public spaces, like we talk about, I think Shanghai Tower, I would say, is less discriminating as compared to a lot of other tall buildings, because other tall buildings will ask you to pay money to go to observation. But in Shanghai Tower, you have sky gardens, which are accessible for most of the zones. I would say it's the most egalitarian super tall building that you can imagine. So that's what I would say about that aspect.
And Hassan, what do you think of the other question, which was really about, do we build up or do we build out? What's the sort of sustainability argument for tall versus, not?
I think what I would say, now the technology allows us to go up to 2 kilometers tall. We can, because I think it's all about the vertical transportation system. Because as you go tall, like we talked about the lifts, we talked about the cables, you have the ropeless technology coming in, so you could potentially go up to 2 kilometers tall. So in 1950s or 40s, I don't exactly remember, Frank Lloyd Wright had a big theory about creating a tall tower, and the rest of the city is a farm, right? And I think it's becoming real. So yes, we could. But then there is another question, is that we build tall where there is a need. There are mega cities. So I'll give you an example. Cities like, I'm not 100% certain about Dhaka, but I would say Dhaka is a very crowded city. And so is Shanghai, so is Hong Kong, so is some big cities like New York, very dense, very populated. And the land is very expensive and very premium. So there is an opportunity into those places where you can build tall. And the advantage of building tall in a responsible way would be that it generates more open spaces for the city. So, and of course, when you design tall buildings, connect them to the community, make them sustainable. It's a good ground, but you got to build tall, but in a responsible way, and in places where there is a need, not just to showcase your ego. So if you just want to build tall in the middle of the desert, of course you can, but from a sustainability perspective and responsible practices may not be the right thing to do. But in the big cities, I would say yes.
Okay, great. Hassan, we have so many questions coming in. Please stop me when you feel that's too much. Okay, so may I put the second question for you?
Go for it.
Okay, so there's this question: what is the big idea transforming GENSLER from 3 people to 1,000 people company? I think that would be more for Scott also as well as a question. Please let us know your design principles. What are the things that you consider in your architecture and urban design? That is one part of the question. They want to know about GENSLER and its growth. What are the future challenges you are taking in your considerations while designing future skyscrapers? So I would hand you the mic over.
I think I can let Scott talk about what are the principles. Scott worked very closely with our founder, Art, in San Francisco. And Scott perhaps has grown with Art while he was in San Francisco. So it would be fair to say that Scott would be the best person to tell everyone that how the firm evolved from firm of 3 people to where we are now. Scott, go for it.
Sure. You know, I think that Art, when he was around, used to say that he never set out to create a 5,000 person firm. You know, that was really not the objective. But what he did want to create was a firm that would service clients wherever they needed our help. And our growth was really tied to the growth of our clients' businesses. So, you know, a client that we might help in San Francisco would frequently ask us then to help them with a project in New York or a project, you know, in London. And so we grew as our clients asked us to grow with them. The other important aspect of our growth has to do with opportunity. That you know, by growing, we actually create opportunities for the architects that work for us to either work in new markets or to take on new responsibilities in the firm. If you're not growing, you're stagnant, and the opportunities for professionals who want to grow their careers, you know, is limited. They wind up leaving to go work for another firm because they perceive that there's more opportunity there. So it's really about those 2 things, you know, servicing our clients wherever they need it, and opening an office in a new location if that's what a client needs. And again, creating opportunity for our people, because we want longevity. We want people to spend their careers, you know, at the firm and not leave because they think they have to get a new experience or a new opportunity. Hassan, why don't you talk about design principles a little bit?
Yes, and the other thing I would add, Scott, to what you said is like we are different than a lot of other firms where some of our competitors have offices in London or New York or Chicago, and they're practicing in different part of the world. We are very different, and the reason why we're different, there is in GENSLER, there is no Shanghai office, there's no San Francisco office, there's no LA office. Yes, we have offices, but at the end of the day, we are just one. So we take a lot of pain, and we make a lot of effort to connect together. We come together, we have meetings together where all of the principals come together with their families, and we meet together. We talk one another, late hours, early mornings. So we make a lot of effort to build the internal relationship, so then we can work together so well. And that is what separates us from our competitors, because you can go to any GENSLER office. There's no A office or B office. You're only going to a GENSLER office. So I think that is very important DNA of ours, that how we work. And in terms of the trends, I would say is like we touched upon some of the things. If you want to hear some in the context of the tall buildings, I would like to say that authenticity is very important. So your tower needs to relate to the city, to the culture, And then, so we're working on another super tall building in Suzhou, which is again, kind of looked at the tower, that how we bring Suzhou, how the tower has to be authentic. But again, when I say authentic, means it has to be in the spirit. It does not need to look 2,000-year-old, means the spaces, those things should be cultural, things should be considered in a more abstract way, not in a literal way. So that would be one important trend. The other important trend, which our firm is very focused on, is the resilience, is the sustainability, is trying to create net zero environment. So I think we have this as a very important trend. So I would say authenticity, I would say resilience, performance, and of course, the user experience, which is also very critical. So these three things: user experience, and resilience, authenticity, and of course the right mix to create innovative and building community is very critical. So those four things would be very critical.
Oh, that's great.
I think you're right, and they're all ultimately centered around the client's business need. I think that was one of the kind of founding principles of the firm as well, is that, again, we were using design as a tool to solve problems.
Absolutely.
Whether it was housing an office worker, or whether it was providing a sport experience or a film studio, our work is deeply grounded in the client's needs and the problem that we're solving for. We're applying research to that. We're drawing from the expertise of 5,000 people to really help problem solve for our clients. And design is the great tool to solve those problems.
Great. Scott, can I put one more question for you and for
Sure.
Hassan? Okay, there's this very important question. I've got this several times. Tall building tends to be very expensive, and it obviously attracts the rich community, at least in developing countries. How can we balance the cost versus productivity of a tall building?
Okay, so I can have a go at that one. So look, earlier part of our presentation, we showed you why we want to build tall. And like we also talked about a lot of things. It's about visibility. It's about prestige. It's about spurring the growth, connecting to the wider community. All these things spur and attract the growth in a certain district. So that is one important criteria. The second important criteria, we talked about the lifestyle revolution, that how in some cities where you don't have enough land, so the only place you can go is vertical. So there are reasons how we go tall. It's not just about showcasing rich, or it's not about just that. It's about multiple reasons for that. So I don't think we should look at it in a way of a rich or a poor situation. Look at it in terms of the lifestyle revolution. Look in terms of the situation, urban situation within the city. And I would look at it in that way. So I would not give it in that way. But of course, if somebody is building tall just to do that, that's a different thing. But we don't do it this way. So that's the distinction I want to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I want to be clear that GENSLER is not in the business of promoting tall or super tall, really,
No.
Right? These opportunities come to us because our clients, have a need or an interest. They have very specific reasons. I don't know that a super tall building is appropriate in every city. In fact, they may not be appropriate for most cities. I don't think San Francisco, where I live, is really a city where a super tall building would make sense. We have high-rise buildings because they're appropriate for our economy and our culture. So I don't want to give the impression that we are saying there should be a super tall in Dhaka or anywhere. When a client is looking for it, we can help them understand how to realize that kind of a vision, but it's not something that we're pushing.
Mustafa, can I take the opportunity to add with Scott? Thank you,
Yeah, that
Scott.
was a very great answer from Scott and Hassan, because I thought that people were getting a little bit confused about that thing, and Scott cleared it up very well. Okay, Diteshbhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, please. Is really, I mean, I know it becomes a centerpiece architecture. I mean, most of the case, the super tall becomes the iconic, the prestige you mentioned, but not all the buildings in the city cannot be the prestige and
Agreed.
cannot be the iconic, and it's obviously relates to the cost. So the issue of culture and place is very important, whether you need an high-rise building.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a myth sort of thing that, as you Hassan also rightfully mentioned, that making a high-rise building in the desert, I mean, does it make any sense, or it has to be? So I'd like to draw your attention, because you know, the only 3% of the world land is used for the cities, and more than 50% people live on the cities in 3% of land in the world.
Yes, that's true.
This is very important notion. We as an architect and you as a global practice must recognize that. So, and considering this, imagine Dhaka will be one of the 6 cities, or one of the 10 mega cities by 2035 in the world, and Shanghai will be fighting with Shanghai actually. So I mean, and the 6 of the Asian cities will be 7 or 6 on top 10. So, and the cities are the places for architects. So we should also think about the extended part of the city, the fringes, the other places. So if you want to make a livable city, we have to think about other parts. So I'll tell you about a few projects that are going on around the world right at the moment. And obviously we are talking today as a tall building, but I don't want to miss this thing. I would like to discuss with as a GENSLER that there are some movement going on, like Lenegger from Copenhagen. He's designing an UN 17 village, SDG village. So it's also living space for public space and all this. And there's another initiative going in UK. It's called low cost impact living affordable communities, the LILAC in Leeds, and also in China, Goulart Architects from France. They made award-winning projects, not yet started, that is COVID friendly, and with you do the self-farming in that community. So farming in the community, these are the things that are coming up. And obviously, do you have any thoughts about the new way of living? I mean, despite this, obviously tall tower is coming up, and also can be vertical gardens and vertical things. A lot of innovative ideas are there. And I would like to thank you that this is a very innovative way the tower has been done, with the double skin and using the surrounding space for the, I was wondering before you explain how it's gonna look like. I mean, why did you make these shapes of the different forms coming up as progressing towards top? And then I find this a very logical outcome of the spaces that use, and this is very thoughtful actually. I mean, the client was a very good client that allowed you to. It doesn't come free. There is a cost involved, but it allowed that, and that is the cost for the living of the people, the play and livelihoodness for the people for the tower. So would you please address to that? I mean,
look,
the new ideas going around the globe, despite this tall super, because in Bangladesh also, any developing nation who is developing tries to build a tower. Look at Malaysia, look at Bangkok and Singapore. In my younger age, we used to go and try to look at all these tall towers, houses. So tall tower given impression this is the face of the development, but we have to change our views. The development can be also horizontal, can be towards your horizon. Please.
Absolutely. So look, I will say absolutely I agree with you. And today was just to showcase our project Shanghai Tower, but that does not reflect it's not about promoting Tall Tower. We're just here to share the tower. So like to your point, we are involved in a lot of projects which is about repositioning. There are a lot of old buildings in the city which needs to be repositioned. Some of them are like in a bad shape. So we are helping the city. So the malls are converted into the offices. Offices are being converted into hotels, hotels into something else. So we are involved in a lot of that. Recently, we did another project which was about a government infrastructure. So you have places like substations and a lot of those things. We're looking at how they become part of the community, how they become part of the farming, how we have. So there are a lot of different topology, and we have done a lot of research in terms of how our workplaces, how our offices, how our in the COVID, post-COVID situation will work, how our sports amenities will work. So yes, to your question, I will say yes. We are pretty much in sync with what you're saying. So it's not just about the tall buildings, not at all.
Yeah, what I would add is that there's been a global migration to cities, for a number of decades now. People are leaving rural areas and coming back to cities. And so the pressure on cities right now has never been more intense. And the problems that cities are facing as a result are more complex than they've been. Housing is a major issue, globally. How are we going to house the people that are coming to our cities? Transportation systems, are under extraordinary pressure. How do we move people not only within a city, but between cities in the most efficient and effective way? How do we build cities that are inclusive of all demographics, of all economic stratas? There's never been, a better time to be an architect, I think, in the world, because architects are problem solvers, and our cities, as I said, have very complex problems that need to be solved.
Absolutely.
Great. Can I add one more question?
Go for it.
Sure.
People are asking, it's for both Hassan and Scott, for both of you. Like, we are facing a pandemic right now, and how does this pandemic kind of affects our practice now, as well as how it might affect our practice in the future? How do you see yourself in this situation and going forward? You would also like to have your advice for our students as well, and young architects, because they're going to face this situation. We're also facing it. So how our profession as a whole, how architects as professionals might prepare ourselves for the future and for this pandemic situation. That's the question a lot of people would want to know from you.
Well, I can talk a little bit about the effect of the pandemic on GENSLER and what opportunities we think it has created for us at the same time. The impact of the pandemic was pretty devastating to our business, because so many projects, came to a halt. We had major work underway in San Francisco at the airport, and because travel stopped, the airport had to put most of that work on hold. Other office building projects, other client work just stopped because there was uncertainty about what the outcome of the pandemic was going to be. So in terms of the economics, it had probably an impact on our profit and revenue of about 20% of reduction. And we lost between 20 and 30% of our architectural staff. We had a number of staff move to part-time. We put some on a furlough basis where they were still employees, but they weren't employed. So we did as much as we could to hold on to our talent, but the impact was significant and very hard on the business. Fortunately, we're seeing a turnaround now, and clients are beginning to move forward again with projects. We're getting busy, and we're now in the process of trying to rehire some of our staff members and and hire new people to help us deliver the work that is in front of us. I think what we learned from the pandemic is that we're going to have to rethink some of the ways in which we design. The office of a year ago is going to be very different than the office, a year from now. We've learned to work virtually now, and that's not going to stop. We will be in a hybrid work environment of some sort for the foreseeable future. So what does that mean for the design of a typical office floor? Do we need more collaborative space? Do we need more private space? I think we have to rethink, what it's going to be like to work with some of the people in the room and some of the people on a screen. So I think there's some opportunity to reinvent that is exciting for us. I think the other thing that we learned is the importance of health and safety in the environment. And that I think we're going to think about work environments, we're going to think about entertainment venues, we're going to think about retail environments with health in mind, whether it's the way we think about air quality, whether it's protocols for sanitation. I think we have to keep in mind that people want to feel safe when they're shopping or when they're at a sporting event. And it's our job as architects to design environments, that are as safe as possible for people. So I think there's going to be some new innovation and new thinking around that will be exciting and important.
Yep. And I think what I would say, Mustafa, is that pretty much what Scott said. Somehow we learn to work remotely with one another, but hopefully this pandemic is not a permanent thing. Hopefully we're going to get rid of this in the next few months, let's say. But I think some aspect of remote working will continue because we learn to work really efficiently. But at the same time, for a more innovative work, we still need to come together. We still need to kind of sit together, brainstorm it, discuss it, and get excited. So that is very critical for a creative work. But what the pandemic has done is kind of created a platform that we don't have to be in workplaces all the time. It can go into a more hybrid. So we come together where we need to come together, and where we don't need to come together, we can still work remotely. So I think that is how probably the future will be, but we still need to come together because that is very critical for creative work.
Thank you, Hassan. I would like to share with you that we architects has gone through an universal process of the teaching process and practicing process. So we find that there are similarities across the globe. The practice is facing. Same here in Bangladesh. Also, we had this, as Scott mentioned, this thing gone very wrong in the beginning of pandemic, but things are coming back now. And same again, we had to rehire people, and we are facing the same experience. So this is very good that you shared with us, and we understand that we have a universal problem. Absolutely. And the challenges has to be faced in a local, considering the local situation, and also this within across the globe in the same platform.
Yeah, I think we used to hear people say, I can't work with someone unless they're sitting beside me. We don't hear that anymore. Now you can reach out and you can get help from somebody, across the world in a matter of minutes. And you can find the right expert. You can see them. You can share work on the screen. Some of that wasn't happening before the pandemic. In fact, most of it wasn't happening. So I think that our work is going to be better as a result.
I agree.
Or GENSLER at least, because you are a global firm and nobody's going to complain that I want him to beside me. Come down to Shanghai, no more.
No, one thing is for sure. I mean, during the pandemic, we have known, I can say personally for myself as well, I'm connected to more people within the firm than I was before the pandemic, because the electronic or remote platform gives me access to more people. I can reach out to more people reach out. So there is some silver lining to this pandemic as well. So that's how I see it.
Obviously.
That's exactly what I was thinking, San. I was thinking like, because of the pandemic, probably now today we could have you present before us. So
Yeah.
I see that as a good side of the pandemic. And also it was so good to see Scott after so many years. My image of Scott was a young and very handsome look Scott. Now I see graying hair a little bit, which is a sign of wisdom. And also I would like, if we also have a bunch of questions, but I understand it's getting late for Scott. So
why don't you ask two more questions, and then we'll bring it to a close.
Okay.
How about that?
So I have to sort out. I got so many. Like someone asked, I don't know who it was. What are the softwares that you use to simulate natural forces to develop innovative forms? This is one question. And then there's this other question. We already asked you that one. Can you share with us how you solved some of the difficulties that you have faced since the time of construction? It may be when it's not working according to your design, like you designed something, but it's not going according to what you designed. So how do you handle those issues? And the other one was what kind of software or technology, I think, you use to develop your designs. These are some of the questions, I believe, from young architects and students. So I would let you talk about those.
Well, we're using a variety of parametric modeling tools on our projects. Hassan, you may be closer to some of them than I am.
Yep.
Rhino, I know, is used, pretty extensively by our design team.
Yes.
We've also developed our own design technology tools recently. You can see them on our website if you're interested in exploring it. But we're developing proprietary tools to study building massing. It's a tool that we call blocks. And we can, with a client, iterate very quickly, changing, looking at the constraints of a site from a setback or a zoning perspective, and in real time work with our clients to determine what the right mix of office, retail, or hospitality space might be, and the corresponding square footages and costs associated with it. So blocks is one of those tools. We have another tool that's called Floors, F-L-O-R-Z, and this is for our interior design work. And again, it's a parametric based tool that helps us do space planning for office layouts in a much faster time than we've been able to do previously. Again, with all of the data that is associated with it. We have another suite of tools coming out that we're calling G-Planet. And this is a suite of modeling tools around energy use and water use and lighting. So we're taking some of the tools that are commercially available to all architects, and we're also creating our own tools to serve the very specific needs that we have.
And the other thing I would add to that is we don't use two-dimensional drawings, CAD drawings anymore. So everything is BIM. It has to be on Revit. It has to be, and then a lot of our young guys use the software that Scott talked about the simulation of energy, light, sun, and all of that. But our buildings, as they progress into further SD, they're all done in Revit. Like, it's got to be a BIM system because it's all integrated with our consultants. So everything is, you can clearly pick up all the conflicts and everything. And the other important tool that we use is the hand drawing too.
Yeah, you still sketch, don't you?
Yeah, it's a sketch. And I think, and I would recommend to all the young designers, don't give up on your sketching ability, no matter how important the technology is. It's still the quickest way to formulate the idea sometimes is also a very 2-minute sketch. So I think of course different generation is growing in a different way. So maybe for some is a software that they can do that way, but of course my generation would always use that. So, but I think it's a great tool to have.
What about a project, Hassan, that didn't go the way you had hoped it did during construction? Can you think of an example?
Yes, I think there would be many actually. I hope not, but I'm just saying, like a lot of times, some of the challenges we face is sometimes this is a value engineering aspect. So you nominate a certain types of finishes to the product, to the project, and then because of the cost cutting, you may have to change those finishes. So that is one way of having an impact on what you design, and you don't get it because the quality of the space will feel different with the finishes. That would be one way. Then the other challenges sometimes we have is depends on the scope of the work. If we are contracted to say all the way up to construction, we have better control. But sometimes some clients, we normally don't do that, but once in a while, we may only be contracted up to schematic design. And that is where we have more of a problem in trying to control the quality of the final product. We generally don't do that, but I'm just saying sometimes that may be the case when we have more problems.
You know, maybe I'll sort of answer the question a little bit differently, and rather than talk about a project that, you know, didn't go well, I'll talk about what makes a project successful. I think that our work is more successful when we have a collaborative partnership with our client, when we're working together with them, understanding their business, you know, receiving their input and designing together in many ways. There's also the builder for our projects. And I think the most successful projects that we have are when we have a positive and supportive working relationship with the general contractor. We like to work with the general contractor as early as possible in the process because they can provide valuable information to us about costs or about schedule or about, you know, the technical aspects of a project. So I think the best projects are when you have a great team, you know, the client, the designer, our consultants, and the builder. And when everybody is working together towards a common goal, towards, you know, delivering a great project, that's how you get great work. Absolutely. When you have people that, you know, approach projects with an adversarial relationship, that's when things start to fall apart and nobody gets what they want in the end. So choosing the right partners, I think, is really critical to success.
And I would absolutely say yes to Scott. And sometimes the quality of the project is determined by the quality of the consultants you have on the project. So as an architect, it's very important we respect the great value and the knowledge and the contribution that our consultants bring to the table. So without great consultants, there will be no great architecture.
So Scott, do you have a pool of engineering consultants, other consultant, as well as contractor nominated? Do you nominate beforehand for the project and recommend to the client?
We often work in consultation with the client. Sometimes the client has an engineering consultant that has done prior work for them, and they'll bring a name forward. But very often, yeah, we're asked to recommend consultants and builders, and we work with our client to select the one that is appropriate for their particular project. We don't have any engineering consultant expertise internally. Some architectural firms have engineers in-house. GENSLER has decided not to build our firm that way. We believe that you go and you get the right consultant and the right engineer for the specific project. Not every structural engineer is the right engineer for every building type. So we would rather be more selective in choosing the right consultant than try to do that engineering ourselves with our own experts.
Well, that sounds great. Okay, so now I think we would have to wrap up things. I know it's getting very late for Scott, and
Okay.
we are okay. This is our morning, so I am sure Hassan is
You have to get
also,
back to work, back to
he has
school,
to get
right?
back to yeah, but he has to get back to work. We have to get back to school, and of course, Ishaq Bhai would have to get back to his work as well. Ishaq Bhai, would you like to say something before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I know. I would like to. It's a very interesting discourse we had. Not only presentation, and thank you very much. Scott was very open, and it's been very beneficial for our architects, our community. I'm definitely the young architects are more enthusiastic, and also we, the whole professionals, we have a strong group of professionals working in Bangladesh. And we like to hear about how you have been doing, and this is a very insightful information we got, and that will be, I'm sure, the beneficial for the profession and for the practice. I think it's a mutual understanding how we proceed in this pandemic situation, as well as the global shift, as well as for Bangladesh. We are going through a change in our economic development, and as a country turning into developing nation by 2025. So I think this is going to be a big challenge for us. And I thank you from the Institute of Architects, from my president, Mubashir Hussain, and from the executive committee of our Institute of Architects for sharing your views and enlightening our members. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Ishaq Bhai. Scott, would you like to respond, or would I wrap up things? And
No, I just,
Hmm.
we're honored to have this opportunity. The world feels smaller when we can connect like this, where we can share ideas and probe important questions. We're honored to be able to spend time with you this morning and today. I'm sorry that we couldn't see all of the folks that were participating, live stream, but we're grateful that people stayed with us for more than 90 minutes and had some really thoughtful questions for us. We'd love to continue the dialogue with you again sometime.
Yeah. And absolutely
Thank
the
you very
same here. Same here.
Yeah, Hassan, I was just going to come to you. That was a brilliant presentation. Would you like to say something to our viewers?
It's just a pleasure to be here, and thank you to Shaq, and thank you to you, and thank you to the Institute of Architects. We'd love to be part of any future endeavor that you plan to do. So sheer pleasure. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to thank a few more people. First of all, we would like to thank Scott and Hassan for your presentation, for taking the time and for being with us. We would like to thank Ishaq Bhai for staying with us from this morning. I know he's a very busy man. He's taking a lot of responsibility serving at IAB as well as UIA. So thank you very much, Ishaq Bhai. Thank you very much, Scott and Hassan. And we would like to also thank, on behalf of the North-South University Department of Architecture, we'd like to thank IAB as well, because they have chosen to partner with us on this so that we could attract a lot more audience, young architects and students as well. And we would be recording the whole event, and we would be sharing the recording so that those of us who missed it, they would be able to watch it later on, after work probably. And we would like to thank the IAB President, Architect Mubashir Hussain, Vice President, National Affairs, Architect Khan Mohammad Mustafa Khalid, and of course, very special thanks to Ishaq Bhai. And a very special, very special thanks to the General Secretary, Architect Farhana Sharmin. Even though she's not on the screen, but she has been there all the while in the background, and she has been sorting out the questions for me, and she has been forwarding those questions to me, and I am lost in a sea of questions. So Emu, thank you very much. And also for doing a great work behind the screen all along this time. And to also, I would like to thank our IAB Publication and Publicity Secretary, Architect Sheikh Itmam Saud, because he has been at the table doing the technical work, though we don't see him here, but he has been here all along, and he has been doing all these coordination with Zoom. And so above all, we would also like to thank all our young architects, students, and those of us who have been with us all this time. It has been a long presentation, but very, very interesting presentation. And I hope we would have Scott and Hassan with more presentations in the future. I don't know whether he would be able to give us time, but of course, we'll look for it. And with that, I would like to end this webinar. Thank you, everybody, and have a very good day.